Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet, CEO and Chief Scientist at Zorka Profiles. I'm here with my co host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. Today's guests are Jamie Cecil, Vice President of Franchise Development for Mellow Mushroom, and Elizabeth Brasch, Executive Vice President of Marketing for Mellow Mushroom Pizza Bakers. Mellow Mushroom has been serving up its signature stone-baked pizza since 1974,
Mm.
when the brand first launched in Atlanta, Georgia. Now with 160 plus locations across 16 states, Mellow Mushroom has become one of the most iconic and recognizable names in the pizza space. Known not only for its a higher order of pizza dining experience, but also for its trippy vibes, psychedelic artwork, high quality fresh ingredients, and a culture that blends food, music, and art into something truly unique. Elizabeth leads the charge in shaping and evolving the brand strategy and identity, of course, across digital touchpoints and advertising investments, helping ensure that the brand stays fresh and relevant while remaining true to its roots. And Jamie brings deep franchise development expertise, offering a front row perspective on how a legacy concept can continue to evolve, stay competitive, and grow in today's rapidly changing restaurants. So, if you're interested in franchise growth, brand longevity, and of course, how an iconic restaurant concepts can adapt for the future, you're going to want to listen to our conversation. This is going to be power packed. I really appreciate you guys joining us today. So, thank you for carving out time.
Thank you for having us. Excited to be here.
Most definitely excited to be a part of it.
So I would like to jump right in with a question that I have for you, Elizabeth, because I noticed something. I noticed that, you're responsible for brand strategy, keeping things fresh and relevant. But I think in the pre-show when we were talking, you also said that you lead culinary development, and that's also about keeping things fresh and relevant with ingredients. So how do the two connect or intersect?
It's interesting because Mellow Mushroom is over a 50-year-old brand. We're specifically turning 52 this year. We were founded in 1974. And in terms of culinary, one of the really the bedrock of the brand or the critical tenets has always been our food quality. You see so often with many other, casual dining brands or mini brands that when they exist over very extended periods of time, maybe they, heavily grab onto trends or food quality is reduced or changes over time. And that's one of the things that really differentiates us as a concept is over time, we've stayed true to our roots in terms of excellence in food quality. And then over the years, we've continued to improve from there. So really from, outside of trends, which I will answer that, outside of trends, I think one of the most important things for us as a core competency and staying true to who the brand is that excellence in ingredients, that same great dough recipe that we've been famous for since 1974. So there are certain things that we would describe as bedrock core tenets that are unchanging regardless of the trend of the moment, the here today, gone tomorrow. Now that being said, it's definitely there's some synergy or balance between doing things that are more legacy and need to stay true to the roots and evolving the brand forward. So I'll give a couple examples of how we kind of marry the two together at Mellow Mushroom. We, as you talked about a little bit in the intro, we have this amazing signature dough. If you've not had it, I encourage your audience to go out and try it. It's really, really unique. There's no pizza crust that tastes like Mellow Mushroom pizza crust. And it's a really special, magical part of the brand. So that recipe stays true to what it is, but over time and as of recently, we've done a tremendous amount of menu development around different things that we can do with our dough beyond just pizza. So back in September, I think now let's see, we are going on They would have been introduced for about 6 months. So roughly 6 months ago, in the fall of 2025, we introduced a new product line called Mellow Rolls, which uses our dough products. But think of like, if you're unfamiliar, think of the best of like an egg roll, but a pizza version of that, if that makes sense. So using our mellow dough, and then we stuff it with all different kinds of like delicious ingredients. And then coupled with that, we came out with a brand new line of dipping sauces. So you pick your roll flavor, and then you can customize your order based on your sauce preferences and flavors. Sauces are something that, we've observed, and I'm sure so many of your listeners have observed as a really prominent trend, in recent years, being able to customize and choose different sauce flavors. So that's one way that we, use some of the things that the brand has a ton of equity in, while really building off of that to optimize for off-premise sales and some of these different food trends that you're seeing in the marketplace.
I don't know about you, Rebecca, but I just got really
I'm
hungry.
hungry. I was thinking the same thing. This pizza dough, I got to go check it out.
I
So,
know.
Jamie, tell our audience a little bit more about the personality, or how you would describe Mellow Mushroom to a potential franchisee. What makes it so unique? Now, obviously, Elizabeth has told us about the food. That is definitely part of what makes it unique. But from your perspective, what makes um, Mellow Mushroom this personality, this brand?
That's a great question, and it's kind of twofold, right? So if you walk inside the physical plant of a mellow mushroom, it's really cool. And Asan Jiva actually he did an interview the other day, and he kind of said, we're kind of a weird brand, and we are, and we celebrate the weirdness that we are, right? So when you walk in, it's not like walking into any other brand you've ever seen before in your life, and each location is unique. So there's not a single, well, I shouldn't say single thing, but each store is very, very different. So we create those, what I call unicorns out there. Then our people, the people that run these store, our franchisees, the people that they hire, our service and I think you said, I've only been with the brand for a little bit. When I was interviewing with the brand, one of the things I did is obviously I traveled to a bunch of different stores, and I've been in this business for a long, long time. And what I noticed was each and every place I went to, the service and the food were spot on. And I mean, it was absolutely, it was amazing. Again, been doing this for a long time, and typically you can kind of see little things here, little things there. Everyone was extremely friendly. They loved the product. They loved the fact that they work for Mellow Mushroom. So I think that part sets us apart as well. Our employees and our franchisees have a passion for the brand. So it's very easy for us to kind of, when they walk in, they get excited about it. They love the product. They love the brand. And it's been an interesting journey these past couple of months, and watching all of the franchisees and all the employees, how they interact with our guests.
I love this.
A few months ago, I was up in Lakeland, and my sister said, "Hey, let's all go to Mellow Mushroom for dinner." And as I'm walking up to the building, there's this tremendous bumblebee, like from like the Transformers from the Optimus Prime. So I took like the most adorable, like I posed in front of Bumblebee and took the most adorable picture. Like, how do you come up with these amazing ideas? Like, I remember Bumblebee from when my son was young. And it was like he was all about Transformers. So, how do you come up with these amazing marketing ideas that really capture the attention of the families and the kids that make them want to say, like, Mom and Dad, I want to go see Bumblebee. I want to go see, I want to go eat at Mellow Mushroom.
Well, and Elizabeth, one of and Elizabeth can pitch in on this too, because she's probably got more background in this than I do. But
She's the
I will
market.
say, if you come to Atlanta, we have a warehouse in Atlanta where it is a massive warehouse of stuff. And one of our founders, Mark Weinstein, we call him Banks, has accumulated all of these things over years. So as a franchisee, you're able to go what we call shopping at the warehouse
Oh my
and
gosh.
pick out some items for your store. Now, there's some things we have to do, we call them stabilization, things we have to do to put them in the stores. But working with our design team, and obviously working with Elizabeth and her team, we're able to kind of pull these things from the warehouse and put them in the stores and get that effect that you had walking into Lakeland, right? So there, like if you go to the Mount Dora store, there's a huge horse sitting out front of that store. So every store's got unique little pieces that set itself apart.
That's so cool.
Yeah, every single mellow mushroom, we call them unique members of a collection or snowflakes. I think in looking at the franchising space and talking about the store design and the atmosphere like we are right now, that's one of the things about Mellow Mushroom that is so different. Um, I don't think you'll find any other restaurant brand in this country, in the US, of a similar size where all the restaurants truly have their own unique vibe, atmosphere, their own individual artwork. And some of that, or really a lot of that, was born out of necessity. You know, when you look at our origin story, before we were really franchising, you know, back when the brand was kind of ragtag, just a couple guys figuring it out, you know, that were college kids that wanted to found a pizza company. They were, you know, it was the 70s, they were hippies, they were into the culture. And originally it was, we don't have money for a sophisticated art budget, you know, so they're working with their friends who are artists and trading them pizza for beer and doing murals in the restaurants, and banks who Jamie alluded to. He's, you know, he's one of our original founders, and he's always been really into collecting and these sort of larger than life sort of figures in the restaurant. So a lot of the original way that the stores were constructed, really in its rudimentary form, was just a passion for eccentricity and trippy vibes and artwork. And then the way that manifested over many decades is we continue to be a brand, and we very much are still today, that has dozens of relationships with real working artists. And those are the people that we work with to create the murals, the design, the atmosphere in our locations. So working artists are so integral to the brand and our look, our feel, our reputation, our DNA. And that's why all the stores are unique, you know, from one another. And we place a huge amount of value and importance on each location having its own local feel to it and its own unique artworks. So, you know, that's part of how the brand started, and I think that really still remains.
That's amazing.
What I find fascinating about this, Elizabeth and Jamie, is this is a franchise. And when we think of franchise, we think of consistency. So everything is done in a similar fashion. You're sort of breaking that mold. Their systems and processes might be consistent in many ways, but there is a flavor that is consistent with the local market, right? I mean, I lived for many years at the beach in San Diego, and it's a vibe. I'm telling you, it's a vibe. And that's completely different than where I am today in Northwest Arkansas. That would be a different vibe altogether. And you're allowing that level of flexibility and
Mhm.
creating those partnerships. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Mhm.
Here's my question though. How then, after 50 years, do we continue to remain relevant? What allows us to stay ahead of the curve, um, and continue to grow and continue to pull in clients without, let's say, losing some other clients that have been loyal?
Well, I think it's an answer. So I could actually talk about that question for an hour. And Jamie, I have some things that you want to say about it. I think there's I will try my best here to give a very organized answer, some of which relates to store design, some of which relates to the menu and some of the other attributes of the brand. So in terms of how we keep the brand relevant and the snowflake aspects versus the aspects that need to be really consistent, we, especially as we've evolved in more recent years, we make very strong distinction between the things that we call a freedom within a framework approach. So there's certain aspects of the brand that are more of the moment, that should be highly differentiated from store to store, have their own personality. Those are high freedom, recognition points of the brand. And then there's certain things that the guest appreciates more and adds to a better experience if there is more consistency from store to store. Like you may see different murals and all different kinds of artwork from Mellow Mushroom to Mellow Mushroom, but that uh, consistency and experience and the menu offerings and the quality that you can expect, that is the most important common thread that you'll find from location to location. So we don't apply the same school of thought to menu or menu development and that experience versus, the atmosphere and the different murals and a lot of the things that you would see inside of the four walls. In terms of maintaining relevancy, I think just like many other brands, we have some parts of our atmosphere vibe design that have endured over time, and then we have certain things that we've transformed and changed, particularly with the rebrand that we worked on several years ago. Our approach to that, our school of thinking, we apply the ethos or concept of what is called neutro, and neutro in its essence combines the best of what is new and modern and forward thinking and the best of what is retro and legacy and heritage about a brand. So we have that constant yin yang kind of push pull, and that school of thought applies to all of our decision making around relevancy and making sure that we preserve and uplift tradition while also continue to propel the brand forward.
I love that whole concept of like
I
the
do too.
snowflake versus consistency. And I know, Rebecca, you love the freedom within a framework. We love
Yes,
that.
yes. And it's so
So,
rare in franchising, Tracy. So this is so
yes.
fun.
It's really fun. So I guess what I want to know, Jamie, is how you apply that freedom within a framework, and this evolution and staying relevant. Like what have you noticed as changes in franchise development, like as you bring on new franchisees? Like what's changed, what's stayed the same? How does that whole snowflake versus consistency, freedom within a framework apply to the acquisition of new owners?
It's interesting, and again, we all have our own unique personalities, right? And I think that we really want to bring that when we design new restaurants. We want to bring that through. We want to bring the new franchisees' personalities out in their restaurant. We're working on a couple of projects now where, the franchisees, we encourage that input. There's a lot of brands out there that are like, look, you get a brown seat and you get a white ceiling and you get gray floor tiles. That's what you get.
Yeah.
That's not at all what we do. We encourage the franchisees to be active participants in the design. Now, I mean, they can't go, off the rails necessarily by any means, but I think that having, again, the franchisee is the one that's spending the money, correct? So letting them have input in what their product, their end product's going to look like, I think provides great flexibility and is kind of a key selling point for us. You're not getting a cookie cutter brand, and I one of the things, and Elizabeth talked about this earlier. We do allow that flexibility on the design part, right? So the look and the feel, but the food and the products that we serve and the level of service we provide, those are non-negotiables, right? Those are standards of the brand. We have systems and processes in place that help franchisees ensure that they are able to provide those. But the flexibility of the freedom in a framework goes for the design piece, and I think that is really a unique selling point for Mellow Mushroom.
It also seems, as you're describing this, guys, that this is a unique person that is going to buy that territory. They have to be adaptable, they have to be flexible, they have to enjoy being self-expressive, but at the same time, they know how to work within that framework you were talking about, Elizabeth. I'm curious, and I think you'll both have a great answer for this. what challenges do you experience in developing a established brand? I mean, the brand itself is carrying the identity and it's carrying the equity. I think you kind of mentioned that, Elizabeth, earlier. But are there any challenges that you might have because it is an established franchise?
Mm.
Because it is established, you mean challenges when it comes to brand recognition or what? Is that
Yeah,
what you're referring to?
growth, systems, strategy. Yes, right. Recognition. I'm sure Jamie's going to have. Here's the challenges I have as it relates to recruitment, and you're going to have challenges in keeping the brand fresh, etc.
Yes, and they definitely, the two certainly have some crossover. You know, a lot of the challenges in my world would affect, some of the things that Jamie's working on. It's rising tide lifts all boats, and the trajectory of the company, if it's working really smoothly on all fronts, so you'll see it, servicing all areas of the company really well. Um, we have had, so it's interesting when you ask about the challenges, there's a number of them that we've identified, particularly as we were approaching our 50-year anniversary. And I should add, coupled with that, that having a position at our organization like Jamie's, having someone that is really in charge of growing the brand in the way that he is, he's actually, this was a newly created position for him.
Oh,
So when you look at how we think about growing the brand, it's changed a lot in the last few years. So we've also, in parallel to that, when we've been thinking about not only about expansion and growing the brand in terms of our franchisees and our overall network and our store count, we're also thinking about, the brand's existence for 50 years and what are some things that, like going back to this whole concept of legacy, what are things that are serving us well and what are things that are not that we need to
yes.
change in order to be able to promote and sustain a healthy future. And part of the challenge is when you've been around for 50 years, you've endured so many cultural shifts, you've endured so many changes within the industry. I could point to a number of things that 15 years ago, that behavior or school of thought maybe served us really well, and then today it's the opposite. So
Mm-hmm.
the strong distinction, I would say, more recently was in 2022. We started thinking about and strategizing and working with some partners around what a rebrand for the organization would look like. But the rebrand wasn't just a simple, like, let's do a new logo design and decide on some colors. The rebrand was a whole strategic shift in the way that we position the brand, everything from those elements that I just mentioned to the approach to store design and the approach to brand marketing and expansion and what things need consistency and what elements of the brand need more of that localization and customization. So I think part of the immense challenge that we've had more recently is also probably the biggest unique identifier or blessing of the brand. And the brand being so different and so unique is part of what has uplifted the soul of the company
Mm-hmm.
for so many decades. But by having all of those differences, we have to handle some of the problems when it comes to growth or scale or brand recognition. We have to handle those things a little differently. So, it's really two-pronged in that sense. Like when we started to think about the rebrand and having a consistent signage system, that would be table stakes for like many other concepts. And for us, that was a first time investment. For many,
Yeah.
many years, all the signs at every Mellow Mushroom location were distinctly different from one another. And that
Wow.
served us really well for many decades because this is before social media. This is before online ordering. This is before that consistency in brand, both inside and outside of the four walls, was as critical as it is today, or had as many touch points as it does today. And so for many years, we operated without telling people the number of locations we had. We were totally fine if someone thought we were like a one of one and didn't even recognize that we were a store. And then flash forward to 2022, 23, we're going through this rebrand process. And in doing intensive guest research, I sat in hundreds of conversations inside of Mellow Mushrooms with guests across the country. And one of the things that we understood from some of the inconsistencies from decades prior is that our guests don't recognize our logo the way that we would like them to. So that's an example of something that we understand, okay, this needs to be a part of our core framework. This is not on equal grounds to something like a mural, which should be very unique and different. So those are some of the challenges in particular in terms of how we orient the brand and how we look and feel in the marketplace. Those are some of the things that we've been working through more recently.
Yeah, and that uniqueness that Elizabeth talked again, it's great, but from a franchise sales standpoint, that also makes it a challenge, right? It's cool
Yes.
to be unique, but it's also, again, for years, I didn't know that Mellow Mushroom was a franchise concept. I mean, again, because they're all unique stores, I just assumed it's a company operation. So having now breaking that mold and saying, hey, we're a franchise business. Come join the family. So that's been, from
Mm.
my desk, getting that word out that yes, Mellow Mushroom is franchising. Come chat with us. Let's see what we can put together here. So again, from a franchise sales point, kind of that uniqueness kind of hurt a little bit, right? It kind of built the brand up over all these years, but it from a people realizing that it's something you can franchise has been a challenge.
Well, Jamie, you raise a really good point there, because I was looking in your LinkedIn profile and I saw that you have an extensive background in restaurants, various restaurants, franchise. Um, what what did you have to change about your own mindset, or what skill did you have to adapt when you started working at Mellow Mushroom?
It's the one the product's great. So there was nothing. I love the pizza and been a fan of the brand for many years. It's the uniqueness, right? Again, a lot of brands do the cookie cutter. Again, you get the brown seats and the gray tile, and you get the white. That's every brand. That is not Mellow Mushroom. That's not what we do now. We're working on some things to try and centralize some things, standardize some items for restaurants. But again, we don't want to get away from that flexibility and the uniqueness either. So that's, not having the cookie cutter, having a full design team I mean, literally every project that we do, we're kind of creating it from the ground up, which is fun, but it does take some time.
And energy. I mean, your whole team has to be endlessly creative and flexible and adapting constantly. So, Elizabeth, from a marketing perspective, with so much competition out there, I mean, you're no doubt unique. How do you know through your marketing efforts that you're cutting through and getting the attention of the consumer and or the prospective franchisee, where it doesn't look just like another uh, pizza joint, but you're getting the numbers, you're getting the right people coming through the store?
Right. Well, our marketing, by the nature of the look and feel of the brand in and of itself, our marketing is very distinct. We have a pretty, if you talk about just the look and the feel of the brand, very distinct logo. We have, as of recent in the last few years with the rebrand, we developed our new brand logo or icon, which is like a mushroom and a pizza combined. Which in terms of ad performance has really helped support the recognition overall of the brand. So these graphic design elements and colors and treatments, coupled with the fact that the pizza looks so unique. If you see a pizza in an ad and you're in any way familiar, Mellow Mushroom Pizza doesn't look like any other pizza that you would see in the marketplace. The crust has a very distinct kind of almost like a bagely look to it on the exterior. Um, a darker golden brown color to it. It's very differentiated looking. The brand's personality, the voice and tone, we're witty, on the nose. We have our own unique way of speaking and acting. So I think all of those elements coupled together help differentiate our marketing and our advertising. When it comes to measuring performance, we have dozens of different media deployments that we're utilizing all the time. We're constantly adding things, taking things away from mix that maybe aren't performing. We do a ton of testing on different advertising. And it'll always surprise you, images and ads that will perform especially well, versus some that you think are going to perform great and maybe don't do as well as others. And then we pull those. So the thing about the advertising space that has changed so much over the last few years, is it is 10 times more involved in terms of the way you need to deploy effective advertising. I mean, gone are the days of just having your splashy television commercial and your one line advertising campaign that's like in a magazine or something. That those ads, I'm not saying they're not effective, but that just very simplified like sort of strategy, it's just not in place today. Consumers
Mhm.
are hit with thousands of different ads on a daily basis. You're hit with more than 1,000 advertisements. I'm probably hit with 200 of
Wow.
them while I drive home, on my on my way home from the office, just driving through downtown Atlanta. So the tricky part with advertising is staying true to the brand while being really distinct and grabbing people's attention, because the world has become so noisy with advertising
Yes.
that people are exhausted by it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's not really just necessarily about producing an ad. It's the brand showing up in everyday spaces like email, like social media, things like that, and adding enjoyment, humor, value, engagement that people want to see. So it's really about the brand behaving in a way that people feel like this is content that's relevant to me, and I want to continue to follow along with this brand because we have so many choices today. And like I said, the world is so oversaturated with all of this stimulus, that it's a combination of the efficacy of the ads, but also making sure that you're setting up your advertising stack correctly that's relevant and going to hit people the right way.
That was an amazing answer. Like
I was saying,
truly,
thinking the same thing. It was an amazing answer.
it was. It
It is
truly
much more
was.
complicated than it used to be. Um, I really think a big part of your success, Elizabeth, is your deep knowledge of consumer behavior. You have this mind that thinks in terms of psychology and you know how to apply it. So I think that's where a lot of your success has come from, at least from my perspective, listening to you. Jamie, I'm wondering if we could shift a little bit to the operational side and the scalability side. Did I understand that you guys centralize your ingredient production? Did I understand that to be true?
We do well. We actually make our dough and our sauce. We have a commissary in Atlanta, so we produce all of the dough and all the sauce for all the stores at our commissary in Atlanta, and then it's shipped out from our proprietary delivery system. So it's yeah, and again, those are two of the biggest, in the pizza business, dough and sauce. So we take those two factors kind of out of the franchisee or out of the operator's hands.
Okay, perfect. So in a day-to-day, the franchisees don't have to deal with that. They can focus on the customer service and other things that are super important. What other, let's say, operational pain points are we working on to simplify or to make life easier for our franchisees? Are there any other pain points that we're focusing on?
That's one of the, and again, all of the with POS and with all of the back office systems. I mean, there's just so many things that kind of get in the way of operators being able to operate, right? And that's part of our job as the franchisor, is to make sure that we're putting our managers out on the floor and making sure that they're running great shifts. So yeah, so we've got a complete tech stack that our franchisees have access to help them make sure that we're running great food costs, we're running great labor numbers, We're scheduling appropriately. We're bringing people in at the right times. We're letting people go, and we're ordering enough product. Making sure that we have enough dough and enough sauce, enough cheese, enough everything, so that we're not running out, and we're not over ordering and throwing stuff away
Yeah.
either. So franchisees have access to all of that. Again, you're talking about a 50-plus-year-old brand, so we've been making pizza for a couple of days now, and we give them access to all of those tools that help them run a profitable business.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
So I just want to know, just a fun question. What are each of your favorite items from the menu?
Oh.
That's easy for me.
Oh, okay. What is it?
The holy shiitake pizza.
Holy shiitake.
Ooh. Holy
It is.
shiitake.
I will say, and I say this, it's life changing because it changed my life. That holy shiitake pizza is the reason I'm at Mellow Mushroom.
This is so
Wow.
awesome.
Holy
It
shit.
is. It is that good.
Yeah, that's a really great. I mean, it's our premier brand mushroom pizza. It's absolutely delicious. I don't have just one answer because it depends a little bit on the day of the week. So I'm gonna give a couple
Okay.
items that are for years on my on regular rotation at our house. So at its core, I'm a pizza purist. I'm always any pizza I love, I always go back to cheese. I love
Yeah.
a great slice
Yeah.
of classic cheese pizza. I think you can also tell the true quality of a brand's pizza by tasting just their cheese pizza. So
Oh.
um, I will, on any given day, I will always go back to that. Now, if you're asking about more fun or interesting or involved specialty pizzas, again, it's hard to pick just one. The Super Pep, we have a Super Pep pizza.
Okay.
Absolutely amazing. It's like its name sound. It's a supercharged pepperoni, so it has extra pepperoni on it, tangy peppers. It has these fresh dollops of garlic ricotta across the entire pizza in a circular pattern, with a hot honey drizzle. That pizza is absolutely delicious. It's like creamy, sweet, salty, spicy. It like hits
Oh,
all
now we're
the
talking.
bases. Yes. So that would be my favorite specialty. If you're asking off menu, certain locations, it's few and far between. But there are a few locations that offer a pizza called Magical Mystery Tour. That's a locals only pizza that it's vintage. I would say like an 80s and 90s pizza offering. It's very veggie forward and spicy with pesto on it. If you come across the location that carries that one, I highly encourage you to order it. It's really, really delicious.
That's so cool.
Ah, sounds so yummy. I would love this
Great.
conversation to go on and
Now
on.
I'm
I
hungry.
know we
Great.
We're
are.
all hungry, Jamie. We're all hungry right now. And our listeners are hungry. So
So
go
for
find your nearest Mellow Mushroom restaurant because yeah, you have to have this experience that we're
sure,
talking about. Yeah.
sure. So
Absolutely.
I hate to end this. But we are coming at the top of the hour because I wanted to really also learn more about industry changes and consumer changes, especially since we have a lot of off-premise dining and et cetera. But I don't think we're going to have enough time to dig in that deep. So we may have to have you guys back for
Yeah.
another
Okay.
conversation. How do people learn more about Mellow Mushroom? And especially if they're interested as a potential franchisee, how do they learn more? So,
Jamie, do you
Well,
have a
they can visit our website. We've got a franchising tab on there. Just click on that, and it'll give them all the information they want. Then there is a form they fill out. They can give us their information and telephone number and email, and we will reach out to them as soon as possible and talk about how to bring Mellow Mushroom to their town.
beautiful,
Right.
beautiful. I want to thank both of you for making time for us. I'm very excited about where Mellow Mushroom is going,
Yeah.
and how you're always one step ahead. It's kind of fun to watch that. and that level of adaptability and flexibility. It's like you have your finger on the pulse all the time. And that's a full-time job, especially for you, Elizabeth. And then you have to adapt to Jamie to make sure you're getting the right franchisee. So you make a fabulous duo in that way. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really, really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us. We so enjoyed it.
Yeah, most definitely appreciate it.
Yes. Tracy, I'm going to punt over to you for your
Mhm.
final brilliant words.
Yeah, you know what? It's just one word, super peps. You guys are both super peps. Really, Elizabeth, you're a super pep marketing expert. I just love the insights that you shared. And Jamie, you are a super pep franchise development executive. You know, just like Rebecca said, like just changing and rolling with the times. I love what the two of you are doing. I'm even more excited about the brand than I was coming into this conversation. So thank you for joining us. And this was great. And I can't wait to have you both back.
I know we're going to have you
Yeah.
back. Thanks again, and thanks to our listeners today. Make sure to comment, like, share this interview with Elizabeth and Jamie and learning all about Mellow Mushroom. And of course, we'll see you next week on another episode of the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.